Welcome to Multifamily Method, a podcast which explores the state of the multifamily real estate market and some of the backgrounds, methodologies, and words of wisdom from some of today's most successful multifamily real estate entrepreneurs nationwide.
Well, good morning, Michael. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Chad. How are you doing?
So let's just jump right into it. It's been an interesting 3 to 4 months in our collective worlds. The last 120 days, and just kind of what are your thoughts about what we're experiencing? Keep it positive and or as positive as you can be. And what are you, seeing and hearing?
Seeing lots of very low cap rates and not a lot of deals.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to sell me a 6 cap. I feel like I might be waiting a while.
You might be waiting a while. You may see a 5 at some point soon.
I mean, I bid on a north of 5 in Nashville yesterday. So
north of 5 on the in-place, like on the in-place numbers or pro forma?
No, like in place revenue, pro forma expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Adjusted taxes, all that. Well, Nashville taxes are year 4, but right now. But yeah, north of a 5. I've seen some north of a 5. Some of them don't work because at this point, the leverage north of a 5 still kind of sucks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The leverage sucks, and there's not as much upside in all of these deals as there used to be. We're not underwriting 40, 50% bumps from in place to market. Even this one is like sub 20, which means the loss to lease is coming down. We've seen some market rents start to slip, even though financials are still improving, just because there's so much loss to lease left. But
so how many different markets are you in?
We're in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. Did I say Georgia?
Yeah.
Colorado. We're going to be in Kansas. So 8 states.
Kansas or Missouri?
Kansas City, Kansas.
Kansas City, Kansas.
Well, it's in Shawnee. So it's in, Kansas City Metro, Kansas City suburb.
Got it.
But so those plus, multiple markets in some of these states. So call it 10 to 15 markets.
So what's the variance on what you're seeing, in different markets, and are there any markets that are pricing has adjusted more rapidly than others? Are there any markets where sellers are not quite, grasping the current situation more than others, things like that?
Florida might be the answer to that one. But, we were seeing, consistently sub 3 caps in most markets, and certainly sub 4s in pretty much any market for the last, until 4 months ago, right? For how long? 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. Probably.
Since mid 2020. Well, no, since mid 2021, mid to late 2021. So I don't know, in Atlanta, you've gone from sub 3s to mid 4s. That's a dramatic jump. But I think the cap rates are still pretty compressed across the board. There's not much differentiation between Kansas City and Atlanta, which I don't think makes a whole lot of sense. But such is the case. Generally,
there hasn't been a lot of cap rate variation across market class for a while now.
For a while, right? Yep. No, right. Why is an Arkansas deal at the same cap rate as a Nashville deal? That doesn't seem to make much sense.
I don't know, but I would buy the Nashville deal at the same cap rate.
I would as well.
So we just dove right into it, but it might be good to just kind of, tell everybody listening, how many units Quad Equities is the company.
Property Group.
Quad Property Group. My apologies. How many units you own? We've covered the markets that you're in, how many units you own, and then you're just kind of overall strategy to provide some better context when we start talking about specific deals and things like that.
I'm not exactly sure the numbers. I could bring it up if anyone's really curious, but we've bought about 3,000 units, a little over 3,000 units, and we own somewhere 2,500-ish units. We will have bought 22 deals as of next week, and we have sold 4 so far.
Okay. And 70s and 80s, mostly 70s and 80s value add properties, right?
We've bought everything from 60s to early 2000s stuff. We have two early 2000s deals, and we have 60s, 70s, and 80s deals.
Yes, the Forest.
That's right.
That was your first acquisition, right?
That was the first one in 2016. Yeah. $4.1 million for 13 units in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
All of 6 years ago.
Well, I remember what that property looked like in 2016. So
I'm not sure it looks a lot different than it looks like now. We figured, we figured in like 2018 that if we could do a $30 million deal, we were covering something like 80% of the market. Like most deals were trading under $30 million, whether they were in Orlando or Charlotte or Little Rock.
Right. And, obviously
and now they're way over
significantly. Yeah. So it's probably a good time since we're talking about the first deal that you bought, to talk a little bit about your background and the inception of the company and how that got started. So why don't you just kind of jump right in and give us the story on Quad Property Group and really what you did before that first, and then how you started Quad.
I went to college in New York, went to Columbia, and then after Columbia and graduating in 2008, I worked for a real estate finance shop that, wasn't exactly doing that much in 2008. So that ended fairly quickly. And then I worked in real estate brokerage, doing apartments in New York for a brief couple of years, and quickly went off to business school at NYU and got my MBA. And then, I hustled a little bit during business school and took some free internships working for developers. Then for about 2 years after business school, I worked for a couple developers. I worked for a national ground up developer in DC. Well, I was in DC, they were everywhere. And then I worked for a developer in New York for 1 year, just doing large scale ground up, multifamily mixed use projects in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Jersey City, just tri-state, or not even tri-state, just New York City area. And then pretty quickly in January 15, I went off and started doing some smaller stuff in Brooklyn and Queens briefly. And within a year from then, we bought our first deal in September 2016. I had met my first business partner in the gym in the building that I lived in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. We were 2 of the 10 people that were ever using the place, and talked to real estate, and he was working in real estate and so was I, and did some things. And then I met my other business partner at the same time, roughly, at a friend's birthday party, who is currently my business partner and has been since 2016. So I had a bit of a development background and had gone to business school, and Jariel, my partner, had gone to law school and had a small portfolio of student housing assets in Gainesville, Florida. So I knew how to go and buy the stuff. I had acquisitions experience, and I knew I could do that. And he had asset management experience, and we threw the 2 together and we had a company. Yeah.
And how quickly did that materialize after that birthday party? Like, what were those initial conversations like?
It took 3 years. We were chatting real estate then, but it's not like we started working together 2 weeks later.
You weren't working it out on a cocktail napkin at the party?
But that is where we met. But we were chatting real estate, and his wife made sure we took each other's numbers, and lo and behold, here we are.
And then when did you move out to LA?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So after the company had started.
Yeah, actually, I'd moved back to DC first. And at the first deal we did, I was living in DC. In September 2016, I was in DC for a bit. And then I moved to LA.
Okay. So now you've built up a nice little shop, and you've done it. This is me talking, not, you've done a great job developing relationships with brokers throughout the Southeast. And no doubt that's helped you win some of the business that you won. Talk to me a little bit about, some of your favorite deals that you've done, and maybe some of the more challenging deals that you've done since you started this endeavor.
My favorite deals are the ones you're going to sell me, Jed. The future deals, but
yeah, the six caps, right? The six caps.
The six caps. That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, my favorite deals were the six caps we were buying all of 4 years ago, but I don't know. We bought our third deal was also our second deal in Jacksonville, Florida. And, back then I used to call up anybody, that any name we saw that had sold a deal, we would give them a call. We didn't have all the relationships back then, and saw somebody had sold a deal in the Jacksonville Business Journal, Killashi Realty, who, gave a call, and lo and behold, he it's like, I think I actually might have another one, and made a phone call. And the next day, all of a sudden, we were on our way to our second deal in Jacksonville, Florida.
Which one was that?
That was Gold Cove, Promenade Park Avenue.
Yep.
That was a good one. Kind of, tells how we've gotten stuff done just, by building relationships. But what was the second part of your question?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Just trying to get,
Yeah.
What was the biggest struggle, other than just not, obviously it's a big struggle not having a name brand, but what other struggles did you have early on trying to get?
Raising money
off the ground. Yeah.
Raising money has always been something of a challenge. I think if you're trying to grow, I think ultimately it's always something of a challenge. You can't do deals without money, and deals are worthless, or rather money's worthless without deals. They kind of go hand in hand, but we've built that up over the last 6 years, and try to do right by people, and the capital raising has gotten certainly easier over time. 100%, not having a name brand was absolutely challenging in the beginning. Just trying to get people to return your phone call for the first few years was not always the easiest thing.
So who wrote you your first equity check? You don't have to say the name, just kind of what relationship or who was it?
Oh, that deal in Jacksonville, we only raised $1.5 million, but it was probably 30 checks. So, we were taking minimum $25,000 checks, and we let some people sneak in for 10 or 15. So, there've been some people from business school that have invested in, or really one friend from business school that's invested in every single one of the deals, including that one. And, there was no one big check though, just because of the way that we've raised it. We've done some deals at this point where it's one check, but back then it was a slew of checks. So,
and now you've got some of the top brokers in the Southeast investing with you.
True story. You're number one on the list. So.
That's what I was getting at, Michael.
Yeah, I know.
So we've got the company up to 2,500 units, and plus or minus, and we're in the Southeast, and we're now expanding to sort of the Midwest. I guess what's the next phase for Quad Property Group, whether it be deal specific, market specific, just strategic vision, anything that you kind of want to tell us about what you're just trying to find a deal to buy before the end of the year, anything that's on your horizon that might be of interest.
We're going to continue buying the same type of properties we've been buying. If they're a little bigger, that'd be great. But we will over time look to go into additional markets, and we'll do that by hiring additional acquisitions guys, girls. We brought on an acquisitions VP, if you would, in Denver last year. So he's responsible for the deal that we bought in Denver about a month ago, and he's responsible for the deal that we are buying in Kansas City. But we'll look to continue expanding into growing markets. Steady Eddie markets are fine by us. They don't all have to be shooting through the roof. We'll look to expand our infrastructure, our asset management team, investor relations teams, and frankly, just continue to do more of the same in additional markets. If we could buy 10 to 20 deals a year, I think we'd be very happy. This year, if we get this Nashville thing done, we're at 8. So
that's still pretty good in a year where there's the deal velocity. I mean, I haven't looked at the most recent numbers, but the deal velocity by the end of the year, I would say will probably look like something like, slower. Half to 3/4 of what it was last year at best.
Yeah. And we've done it all except for one of those deals with long-term agency financing. We're not shooting for the moon. We're trying to build a portfolio, and we're trying to do it safely, conservatively, as best as possible.
So, when did you start to notice this year that things were going to be a little bit different? Because when we were all at NMHC together, and the party was still going, and I don't know that there was a whole heck of a lot of clairvoyance from the group, that at least the group that I spent a lot of time with, that the market was going to shift in any significant manner. Because there was a lot more people partying than actually working at NMHC this year.
Yeah, that never happens. Not that I didn't do my fair share, but we were nervous back then. I think everyone saw the rate increase writing on the wall. The inflation was there. I think everything was foretold. I don't know that we could have predicted that SOFR was going to blow out to 275 in the span of 4 months.
Right.
So the pace of it was a little insane, but we were definitely having conversations about shifting sales forward. And then we were having other conversations about what the hell do we know, how fast it's going to go. And we know these, the financials of these properties were improving. They're continuing to improve. So you're sitting there going, okay, you might get dinged on value on one end, but you might have your value go up on the other. So it's hard to kind of rush to the exits, especially when you're trying to build a portfolio. We weren't, forced to sell or anything of that nature.
And by the time I think everybody's, by the time it started to materialize, it was too late to really, if you were selling a deal in January, February, if you listed a deal in January, February, you were fine. You were going to get your number, and
it was a narrow window.
Yeah. Right. Once you saw it coming, by the time you got in the market, it was already, valuation was already being affected by what was going on.
Down. Yeah.
What's your dog's name?
Oliver.
Mm-hmm. Oliver's got thoughts about the market as well.
Yeah, Oliver definitely has thoughts about the market at the moment. I think Oliver wants to play at a bad time, but
he sits there and listens to you talk about your sunny optimism on the marketplace all day.
That's right. Oliver's going to join the show because I think that's the only way he's going to stop doing anything. But
all right, bring him on in.
Oh.
Our first canine appearance on the multifamily method.
There you go. All right, here we go. Now we got a golden doodle.
All right. So what made you get into real estate?
What made me get into real estate? I don't know. It seemed more interesting than investment banking or consulting. I wasn't the best at sitting at a desk and listening to people and working in a corporate environment. And those were that in a nutshell. Real estate wasn't necessarily, you can get out of the office and go look at a building down the street, go look at a site. It was real. It was right there. Yeah, that was more tangible, if you would. Made it a little bit more appealing when you were coming out of college at however the hell old I was, 21, 22.
Right.
So
was there any aha moment?
No.
Just this seems like interesting and I can make some decent money doing it. So we'll just jump in and.
Yeah. I mean, look, I never thought I was going to, have my own business at the age I did. Even when I went off, I didn't, certainly debated for a while whether that was a good idea or I should be staying, the institutional corporate route for a while longer, but opportunity presented.
So when you left the last developer that you were with, how did that take shape? I mean, did you just jump ship? How did that work? And how long had you been working on getting this teed up before you made the move?
No, we did a small deal in Brooklyn. I made a little bit of money, and it was enough that I could give it a go for a year and try to make some more money. And we made some money quickly. Again, doing some small stuff, and that was it. Once a little bit of a taste of a little bit of success, even if it was very choppy in the beginning, it was very hard to go back. I still interviewed once I left. I was still looking at jobs. I got the job offer actually out in Los Angeles and turned it down at one point. And when I left, I was actively interviewing with a major developer in DC and another one in Miami, simultaneous. So I kind of figured I'd see if I got those jobs, and if I did, I'd figure it out. I'd see if I wanted to take them or keep out on my own. Fortunately, I didn't get those jobs. So here we are.
So you guys do not self-manage. Any thought on incorporating that into your business?
Maybe way down the line. We'd have to have a substantial amount. I mean, given the amount of territory we're covering, we'd have to have a substantial amount of units.
What value do you see in it at all? Fees?
I mean, probably fees at some point. But again, I mean, I think you'd have to have, for the amount of territory we want to cover, 10 to 20,000 units, something that's a ways away before we even put thought into doing it. But I guess fees, some control. If you have that many units, it's, that's a substantial chunk. You can hire a good team with that many units. I wouldn't want to do it without top-notch people, working for us. And we get those people, with First Communities now, without having to hire them. We would never have the same level of property management if we did it on our own right now.
Right. Well, let's be clear. You wouldn't be doing it. It would be Jerry L that would be doing it, correct? Yeah. Right.
I mean, perhaps, but perhaps. Again, we couldn't do it. If either one of us was doing it, it'd be a bad idea, right? Yeah. It'd have to be somebody with that skill set. That'd be, we know how to do what we know how to do. And that's not one of those things that we know how to do.
So, the division of labor there is you've already referenced it and we've talked about it offline it was obviously the natural fit based on experience and personality.
Yeah. I mean, I just simply had no asset management experience back then. I was 29 when we started, and I just didn't have that experience to think that I could at that point would have been silly. I had the acquisitions experience, and he knew how to handle the assets. So it just naturally broke up that way. And then we both take to doing, investor relations and raising money. I do a little bit more with the debt on an ongoing basis, not like reporting or anything, but conversations about refinancing properties, things like that. I'll get a little bit more involved, even though that's kind of asset management. So there is some overlap in some things, but pretty much it's I handle acquisitions and he handles asset management.
Right. All right. What do you think are going to be your biggest challenges over the next, maybe, I don't know, what do you think all of our biggest challenges are going to be over the next 12 months?
The obvious one is where the interest rate's going to be, right? I mean, if the Treasury runs a bit more, I don't know how on earth to buy a 4.5 cap. I think there's a lot of bridge loans that were taken over the last couple of years. And I know we took a bridge loan in, 3-4 months ago in Virginia. And I mean, obviously, the interest rates have run up tremendously in 4 months.
If you execute your business plan, do you think it's going to materially impact what?
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I mean, there's a lot of rent increase in that property, and we're hitting our rents at this point. So everything's going according to plan. But it's no mystery to say that if interest rates go up 2%, and your debt goes up 2% overnight, it's just an additional cost that is flowing through in a big way.
Yeah.
If you're not executing your business plan, there's definitely guys out there that aren't executing their business plan, as we all know. I mean, it's got to be seriously problematic.
Yeah, I think some, people are, it's still, this interest rate increase is happening in a time where, there's still a lot of upside on the rent roll, right? In most markets, right? I mean, your rents went up 15 to 20, 25%, depending on what market that you're in. And, a lot of that is still carrying through on lease trade outs today. And so I do think that, and you may tell me if you agree, disagree. I mean, if you can get the Treasury to stabilize somewhere closer to where it was, 10, 20 days ago than where it is today, and you start to get those leases turning over and a little more seasoning, then I think you'll start to see a market crystallize that you can make some sense of. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if the Treasury goes back down 50, 55 basis points, then it's obviously helpful. If it goes up 50 basis points, it's obviously harmful. I think time's going to tell. And I think we're all going to just see over the next 6-12 months, what happens there. Obviously, none of us really know.
So are you still able to get pretty aggressive on rent growth across some of your markets, or has it more normalized for you back to, pre 2001 levels, and then you're just still getting the trade outs to the market rents that you put in place a year ago?
I mean, we've always underwritten the same way, where we're taking the in-place rents at the property, right? The average in-place rents per the rent roll. And we're taking the market rent based off of us actually going and calling comps and checking what comps are around, and, running the rents up to what we think they should be achieving after we renovate the property, right? And rolling those rents up by 3%. We've never gotten more aggressive than 3% rent growth on an annual basis. So we've never taken our top line up more aggressively than that, even though the rents have been going up 10, 12, whatever, 15%. We've never baked to that in. So what we're seeing is the loss to lease slip, though. So we were seeing, deals where we had $1,000 in-place rents at the property, and we were taking it up to $1,500 regularly. So 40, 50%, rent increases from in-place to market. And now we're seeing that come back down, as we expected eventually it would, and as it was pre-2020, right, to more like your 15, 20% rent bumps. And I think you're going to keep seeing that come down unless the market rents, were to explode again.
And it's hard to believe that could be the case based on just, sort of depending on what market you're in, sort of where it's at. I mean, it feels like it's got to normalize to like the 3 to 6%, 3 to 7%.
Yeah. Right.
Growth.
And over the next 18 months, as leases roll over, that loss to lease is going to continue to diminish down to relatively normal levels. I mean, it has to. Unless you find, of course, somebody that just hasn't pushed their rents in 3 years, right? Then you'll still, of course, see some monster loss to lease. But
like the deal you just bought in North Carolina. Sorry, I forgot the name of the market.
Yeah, one of the deals in North Carolina.
Rocky Mount.
Yeah, that one wasn't tremendous. I mean, the one we just bought in Nashville had a even more loss to lease.
But the Rocky Mount deal, I remember you telling me that the owner hadn't pushed rents in 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, there was a fair amount of rent bump in there. And again, we're hitting those rents. Yeah, I think that's the key. I mean, as loss to lease slips and there's less upside, and I think it becomes challenging also to pay the lower cap rates. You were able to pay the lower cap rates just based off of being able to get it.
You could get it financed. Yeah. I mean, you could get it financed first, and then you could see very clearly where the upside was because it was already starting.
That's right. So, right. If you could take a 4 to an 8, great. But if you could take a 4 to a 6, things change.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I think people would still bite off on that business plan if you could get it financed today. But that's the difference between today and 4 months ago, right?
Yeah. Very true.
I mean, it's not rocket science what we do.
No, definitely not.
Buyers will buy whatever they can get financed.
Yeah. Something like that.
Plain and simple. Yeah.
Something like that.
And if they believe there's an executable path forward to create value. Easy for me to say.
Hopefully they believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's take a little bit of break, and then we can kind of pick back up on some other items to delve into.
Sounds great.
Multifamily Method is powered by Capstone Companies, the largest privately owned multifamily investment sales brokerage nationwide. Capstone Companies provides dedicated coverage to both primary and secondary markets throughout the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest regions of the United States. Whether buying, selling, or refinancing, Capstone Companies is here to help. Simply put, Capstone is expertise, experience, extra mile. If you're interested in having Capstone provide a complimentary opinion of value on your multifamily asset, please visit us at capstone-companies.com.
Michael, so we've talked a lot about interest rates. We've talked about cap rates. We've talked about rents and operations. Market outlook. So what are we going to be talking about in Vegas in January and in 12 months from now when we sit down and record part 2 of this scintillating conversation? What are we going to talk? What are we going to be talking about that shook out, Q3 or Q4 of this year and Q1, Q2 of next year? What, crystal ball, give me your, best case, worst case scenario on how you think this might all shake out and for buyers, for brokers, for sellers, et cetera.
Brokers will always be fine. You can sell a deal in an up market or a down market. Yeah,
we can't sell a deal when nobody knows how to price it, and sellers included.
Yeah, you'll get there eventually. But I don't know. Look, really, as much as I, bitch and moan to you about pricing, I don't know where the hell things are going, and we try not to really care too much about that. We try to underwrite for where the market is today, and try to be conservative, and that's why we take the fixed rate long-term financing to ride through a down wave when it does inevitably appear, because we all know at some point, whether it's in 6 months or 36 months, it's going to happen. So there's that. But I think cap rates do have to continue to increase unless the interest rates were to suddenly fall. With loss to lease kind of slipping and interest rates going up, bridge financing all but disappearing. Again, not that we used it, but it obviously brought the cap rates way down.
It was the jet fuel for the market.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how look, I've seen some guys taking agency floaters and layering pref equity on top right now on deals that are aggressively priced just to make them work. And so if you had enough guys like that, I guess you can hold the market in place, but that feels like a tall order if the actual volume of deals being sold were to get back to normal, or even close to, long-term normal, which obviously, deal volume has got to be way down, at least the last few months.
Yeah.
Which, so if you got a few crazy sellers and only a few crazy buyers and only a few deals, I guess, you can hit your marks, but I think it's probably got to go up in the next, the property values have to dip a little bit in the next 12 months. Maybe it's just cap rates. Maybe it's not even the value. It's just because maybe the actual finances balance out any rise in cap rates to some degree. Right. So,
right. Well, I mean, if you look at, I talk about a deal we recently worked on. I mean, and, if you just moved the in-place rents to the market rents and everything else stayed the same, that deal trades, right? Because you're marking off of in-place. Now the lenders are marking off of in-place, which we didn't have to do for, 24 months or so.
Yeah.
Right. So if, again, like we just talked about, if, right, there's a lot of ifs, but if the treasury gets back down under 3 and these deals, the next 4 months worth of leases turnover, then you get to, a point in January where, some of these deals probably look like high 4 caps to low 5s, and you could probably make sense of them. Yeah.
If interest rates come down 100%. Yeah. My crystal ball would not guess that interest rates are coming down while the Fed funds rate's going up, but it could happen.
Yeah. Well, the 10-year did drop to 260 30 days ago. So it went up and then dropped and then went up again. And
it's going to bounce around.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to bounce around and it's going to be hard to. And I think I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were negotiating a PSA and they're putting a range in basically pegged to the treasury. So that, the buyers, the buyer's basically saying like, look, we can pay you this number, but if the treasury goes to X, we're going to need an adjustment here. And maybe that's what it takes to get creative for, some more deals to start trading and
yeah, maybe
we'll still see more deal velocity.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm checking where my financing is if the treasury runs up 50 basis points. So,
right.
I mean, we always build in 25 basis points, but I mean, 50 feels like a real possibility between the time you go under contract and the time you lock.
Now, you're always looking at a lot of deals. So how often are you talking to your debt guys in this environment?
Every day.
Every day.
Multiple times a day.
Yeah.
I always am.
They got to love you.
Yeah. Look, I'm only talking to the same guy. It's guys know that they're getting our business, right? I don't
right.
play people. So they don't.
Right.
I think for that reason, they're happy to bullshit with me, just like you are.
Right. Right. Well, that's actually a good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about next. So, you and I probably 4 years now we've known each other.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I would say that like in my time in the business, you do as good a job of anybody that I know in checking in with brokers and really developing a relationship with brokers. So, being that this is a broker produced podcast, I thought we would get into a little bit of like your perspective on the brokerage community, how you've been able to build such good relationships with brokers and, maybe some of the things that you like to, you like from a broker, you like to see from a brokerage shop and, maybe how that varies from market to market. So I'll just kind of, start there. Like, you are really, really good at checking in regularly. Just talk to me about like your mindset with the way you've been able to build relationships in the brokerage community.
It is what you said. It's the checking in, chatting with guys. I don't know. There's a lot of hours in a day, and there's only so many deals to look at. So if I'm not sitting on the phone bullshitting with somebody, I get bored. I mean, that's the crux of it, and you know it. So, you guys are, almost all of you are, easy and fun to talk to. So just to pick up the phone and shoot the shit, and hope that sometimes every once in a while you actually have a deal to throw my way is the crux of it. It helps that obviously I don't have a boss looking over my shoulder wondering what the fuck I'm talking about on the phone all day.
Well, if your boss was smart and your job was to go buy deals, then he would know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, not every boss gets that, I suspect.
Yeah.
So, that's the crux of it. It's easier to talk to guys who can, aren't brokering the entire time you're on the phone and just want to chat, but have something in common to chat about. So that's the crux of it. I know I'm not chatting about deals with you every time I call. Just
no, most of the time you hear my kids screaming in the background.
Yeah. So,
or I've got a glass of wine in my hand, or both.
Which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's early out here, but I'm wondering why we don't have wine for the podcast.
Wow. Okay. So
why wasn't there a bottle sent to my apartment to be drinking?
Well, because you got to come you got to come and do it in person. You got to do that. You get the drinks if you come do it in person. But we've got shiny new digs down here. This is a shameless plug. We've got brand new office space in downtown Tampa. We are walkable to the new Water Street district. So you can come in next time. We'll open a bottle of wine and then we'll walk down the street and get dinner afterwards.
Sounds great. I'm in.
Good. Look at that. See, this is the way you build relationships with brokers.
That's right. Let me know when the temperature drops below 90 and it's no longer massively humid.
I know, because it's so cool in California these days. I hear
today it is 1 week. 1 week. Next week it's in the 70s again. No humidity. So I'll take it.
So how many, you're in like 10 markets we talked about. I mean, you and we have a pretty good relationships. I mean, how many different brokers would you say you have a similar relationship with?
20 to 30.
What's that?
20 to 30.
20 to 30?
Yeah, maybe I don't have the same relationship with everybody, but that there's probably, without counting, I would guess it's like roughly 30 guys that I have relationships with of varying degrees. That's how many I'm in touch with regularly.
Got it.
Right, because I'm personally covering Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, a little Alabama, a little Kentucky.
So the Southeast, effectively.
Yeah, plus Virginia. So there's just a lot there.
Yeah. So then outside of just, winning personalities and charm and shooting the shit, like what are you looking for when it comes time to actually do business? Like what are the characteristics that you think are important in a broker?
That they sell me a deal. Yeah.
I knew that was going to be the answer. I knew that was going to be the answer.
Look, at the end of the day, all you guys are all, good at what you do.
Well, we're not all good at what we do.
No, not all. You're the best at what you do. That's fair. But so everyone is somewhere below you. But look, we want people that have market presence at the end of the day, and have reach enough to get a deal sold, obviously. And we're loyal. You sell a deal, we're gonna sell it back to you or back with you. We're not getting deals from off the street, generally speaking. It's it's a relationship business. We're loyal guys. So if somebody sells us a deal, there's got to be a really good reason for us to not, use them to ultimately sell it, whether it's 3, 5, or 10 years down the line.
Right. So what, a couple more broker questions here without naming names, unless you want to name names, but you don't have to. What's sort of the best experience or best thing you've seen a broker do in a given transaction? And conversely, like what's the worst or the shadiest thing you've experienced a broker do in a transaction?
I mean, honestly, I haven't seen a broker do something shady. I don't know that we've ever really experienced that.
Okay.
Have we seen like an omission that people have caught, fairly early? Sure. Have we seen sellers presumably hide something? Yes. But I don't know that we've seen a broker do something intentionally shady. We've never really had issues on that front. But
the answer was supposed to be all the other guys in Florida do it all the time.
All the other guys in Florida do it all the time. Okay. But during a transaction, honestly, you'd have to ask Jerry L. I kind of step away for the most part. So if there's an issue, he's the one often taking care of it. Yeah. I mean, that's the real answer. I don't know.
I'm going to let you ask me a couple questions if you've got anything that you've been dying to ask me.
Oh boy. Why didn't we buy that deal in Tampa, Jazz? The fuck happened there?
Because
market went up $10 million in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's why. That's why you didn't. Why you didn't. I just drove by it the other day, actually. It looks worse than it did when it traded.
Not shocking. How much would that sell for now? Make me sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what did it trade for? Like 160 a door?
I don't know. Something absurd.
Yeah. The rents are probably still going up. So, I mean,
400 a door.
No, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
More than a new build.
No.
Where do you think the market's going, Jed?
Well, I'm innately optimistic by nature. So I do think that the Treasury will stabilize in some manner. I don't think that I'm hopeful that, we've got 75 basis points coming this month, right? I mean, I think that's pretty much baked in at this point. But the 10-year doesn't always follow the Fed funds, and it's, the market for the 10-year has been volatile. I am hopeful, if not cautiously optimistic, that it'll settle down into the, high 2s and low 3s and maybe stabilize there in enough time so that we can see a more normalized market for next year. You have a theory that, the market, it moved so quickly, so dramatically, and that coincided with the summertime that, our business gets slow in the summer as it is. So it was kind of gave everybody a reason and an excuse to just kind of effectively take the summer off, and then sort of come back this week and see what happens. So if we can get some semblance of stability in the Treasury and, going into the end of the year, then I think we'll see a bunch of deals come into the market Q1 next year. A combination of stability in the rate environment, and then owners realizing, hey, we didn't pro forma a 375 exit cap anyways. So, why are we trying to, why are we holding to that number? If we look back at our original exit cap projections, maybe they come right back in line with what we projected in January, February, and we'll start to see some deal flow. And then, there is a worse scenario than that, where we start to see some actual recessionary factors like job loss and wage stagnation and delinquencies increase and rents flatten and bridge debt starts coming due. And, we're buying deals from servicers in 2-3 years. Most of me doesn't see that happening, but look, it could. I mean, we've seen it. We've been around long enough or at least I have, and I think you have too. You started in 2008. So, but as a generally bullish and optimistic person, especially on multifamily housing in the Southeast and specifically in Florida, I just think that the supply demand imbalance of housing units is going to, help carry us through that time.
Fair. And the Browns, how are they going to do this year?
Yeah. They got to tread water until Watson gets back. We're not going to talk anything about the person, but the player is pretty damn good. So if they can hang around 500 until he gets on the field, they might have a shot.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to bring back Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, he'd be good for the bar community in the bar owner community in Cleveland. I had friends that actually owned bars when he was there, and he was very good for
I bet
for their business.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So, what are you? You're a Giants fan?
Yeah.
And what do you think your Giants are going to do this year?
Another Super Bowl this year. Saquon Barkley is just going to carry him on his back.
Is he going to play quarterback?
He might.
Yeah, he might have to. Yeah. I think you're going to be looking for a quarterback next year, personally.
They're just waiting for Archman.
You could have had Baker Mayfield for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, well, next time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to finish this up. We do rapid fire usually at the end. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions. I don't know if you read, but we'll start there. What's the best book you've ever read that had any impact on you?
I don't know. Next.
Are you a reader?
I'm reading slowly The Committed right now.
What is that?
I don't know. It's about a Vietnamese spy who's now in Paris trying to not let people know that he's a spy while hanging with people who want to kill him if they know he's a spy.
A good way to do that is probably write a book.
Yeah. Except it's fiction. So.
Oh, it's fiction. Okay. All right. You have time to read fiction?
I told you I'm reading it really slowly. I mean, I'm on planes a lot, so I read books when I'm on planes, so they get read really slowly.
All right. What's a podcast that you listen to that you would recommend to anybody that's in business or in real estate?
This is just going to be really boring. I have never really listened to a podcast.
So you are a guest on a podcast before you've actually listened to a podcast.
Yeah, the one podcast I've really listened to is the one we put on a long road trip, and that was the Dr. Death podcast.
What is that?
It's about the back surgeon or spine surgeon who basically killed a handful of his patients. There's a true story. They made a show on Peacock about it. But it's pretty messed up. But it's good for a long road trip. So,
I mean, you don't read, you don't listen to podcasts, you just talk to brokers all day. That's what you do for fun, basically.
I talk to brokers all day. Yeah.
Okay.
I play tennis. I play golf.
Okay. What's one piece of advice that somebody's given you that helped you get to where you are today? Try and see if you can come up with a serious answer here. Give the listeners something they can work with.
It's a simple one, but you got to be in it to win it, right? If you're not playing the game, you're not going to go anywhere, and that's really what we all do in the real estate business. If you're not buying deals, you're not gonna. This business is nothing. And that was something basically similar to that was said to me when I was debating whether or not to go off and work on my own.
Who gave you that advice?
An uncle had said something of that nature. Whether he realized that he was, giving that advice about that problem or not, but most people in my family work for themselves. So
got it.
For me to go off on my own wasn't some foreign concept.
Got it. What's one thing, if anything, you could go back and change? Career wise.
Yeah, I mean, look, I went off on my own at 29, so it wasn't, weren't too many things to change, but I didn't really know the layout of, certainly the real estate world, at least right out of college. Not that might have done me very much good anyway in 2008, but you should really have some better idea of what the landscape looks like to get you kicked off. That first job can really open doors and set the groundwork for where you're trying to go. I got there after business school, but so not that much later, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's more important than often people realize. I think brokerage and development are probably good places to learn a lot of things about a lot of different things.
I'm still learning.
There you go.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you've yet to accomplish that you would like to pursue in the future, other than getting married and having kids?
There you go. Yeah. Throw that one in there for the girlfriend. We want to get into development at some point. That was where I was working before, we went off. Jariel had some interest in development. That's where we want to head in addition to what we're doing now at some point, not in the next 2 years, maybe not in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 10, 15.
Just garden style apartment development, just suburban garden style type.
I mean, I would love to do stuff in, urban environments, major urban markets, but suburban as well. I mean, that's the game we're playing now. So I think that's the easiest entry point.
Got it. This is not part of the rapid fire, but I never followed up with you. What wineries did you end up hitting up when you were in Napa when we talked a few weeks back?
Oh, where did we go? We went to Clos de Val. We went to the ones that you told us.
Okay.
And then actually we wound up staying there so long, we missed lunch and wound up going to Handwritten in town.
You did go to Handwritten?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were going to Bouchon for lunch and it was down the street.
Nice.
It was great. Bouchon was okay, but Handwritten was great.
And how long have you lived in California?
4 years.
And that was your first time in Napa?
No, I've been to Napa like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, why did I think that was your first time? Okay. All right.
We just had driven up that morning. We got in the car on Friday morning and drove and booked a hotel on the way. So there was just no planning.
What's that? An 8-hour drive?
Yeah, it was a bit of a hike.
Oof.
I think it was probably like 7. I think you could do it in like roughly 5 if you drove straight and didn't stop for anything.
Got it. Well, it's always fun chatting with you. I'm excited to see what Quad Property Group has in store for us in the next 12 to 24 months. Hopefully that's a deal that we sell you and then a deal that you let us sell for you.
There we go.
Hopefully the best parts of your outlook for the market and my outlook for the market come true in the next 12 months. And when you're here this time next year and sitting in our fancy conference room, drinking a bottle of wine, we'll laugh at how well the market's turned out for us.
Sounds good to me, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Nice.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Multifamily Method. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps our podcast get discovered by other savvy investors like yourself. Subscribe to Multifamily Method for free on your podcast platform of choice. Find out more about Capstone Companies at capstone-companies.com. Multifamily Method is executive produced by Capstone Companies. Audio production for the podcast provided by Andy Go of Gojo Studios, and video production by Yash Mystery of Mystery Projects.